All right, everybody. Basics gi class, 5 o'clock. Today we're going to go over 2 sweeps from bottom half. The first one is going to be based off of a submission. It's a kimura sweep, so it will align with the fire sweep, the fire elemental style. And then the second one will be the low single takedown, which will align with the earth element. Okay. And then we'll finish with the Americana, some specifics of the Americana key lock, and then we'll talk about concepts and whatnot. Okay. All right. Get a good view. Okay. So I don't have my partner today, but I do have my dummy, and my dummy will be good enough. So the first submission, or the first sweep that I want to talk about from bottom side, the first transition, I should say, is the kimura sweep. All right. So we all know, well, could be familiar with the kimura. It's a shoulder lock. It requires an overhook on the arm. I'll show one from this position here. So it requires an overhook, and you press on the arm and you rotate it out. Okay, that's a normal kimura. You can do it from the bottom in some scenarios, like in quarter guard or half guard, sorry. But for our purposes, we're going to use it as a way to sweep your opponent in side control. Okay, so I always start in worst case scenario. So worst case scenario is arms up here, arms down here. Okay, and if you don't know what to do with your arms, again, you want this arm right here. This arm is worst case scenario kind of high, and the person who has your side, they usually have their leg up pretty high against your the side of your head, and so it's going to be real hard to get that arm out, because it's sort of like the more control they have, the fewer options you have. Okay, so remember, when you're here, don't go over the top like this. This is an inverted arm bar waiting to happen from the guy on the top. All right, what we want to do is we want to worry about getting this arm inside. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do to try to get this arm inside is we're gonna bump like we've done before. So you're just gonna move your feet over to the side like this, and when you do that, you're gonna just lift your butt up, and it doesn't have to be a big bump. So that's the fun thing about this, is that if your opponent's squeezing real hard and you can't move your top half, that's okay, because you only need to move it just a little bit to get this arm inside. Right now, the dummy's blocking my elbow, but if I just go over bump, now I've made enough space to slide my arm inside. So now I've created this frame. That's step number one. All right. Oh yeah. Now with this hand, remember, this hand should, in my opinion, go here and tuck. You can grab the back of the head to hold your opponent down, or maybe even grab their lapel like this and hold them down. That's another good way to hold them down. But if you do this, then they have their arm here that they can still try to do things with, and I'd rather control that. I'd rather keep them from attacking me by controlling their arm. Now, the drawback, of course, being that if you control their arm, they can sit out. So if they sit up like this, their arm's in the position they want their arm to be. But I'd prefer to hold this arm in place until I'm ready to make some transitions. Okay, so got the arm here. My knees are up. Don't ever lay flat, otherwise they're gonna mount you. So knees are up, and even in some best case scenarios, some people like to do something like this, or even just this, to try to keep from getting mounted. So this is normally a good position, especially if you've got this arm control. If you don't have this arm control, he can reach up and grab that foot and attack that foot. So you got this arm controlled, hold on and tucked, and you have this foot up, you should be pretty good defensively. Okay, so you got this arm inside, you got here. Now I want to get to my actual setup for the sweep. So this should all be basic positioning. You get your worst case scenario, you move off, you get this arm over, you get this arm inside. Okay, that's step one. All right, now step two again is you need to create this, you need to frame on your opponent. All right, so we frame by returning to our feet. And when we return to our feet, you can do it both at the same time. So you can save time if you move your feet over at the same time. So I did that, I was here. Now I'm gonna move my feet over at the same time. So I'm gonna go boom. Then from here, I'm gonna bridge up into my opponent. And at the same time, I'm gonna use that key to drive through. I don't ever wanna go around. Remember, this is where you get key locked. My arm's here, guess where my arm is ready to be key locked, all right? So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go from here to here, bump, right? Key lock, go inside, and I'm gonna grab the shoulder, all right? I don't wanna, grabbing the collar here can be dangerous because if the guy's good at wrist locks, there's ways to wrist lock with your hand inside. You can't get your hand off very easily. You try to shove it off, but they can still readjust to get their shoulder into the right pressure. So if you grab grab this here, you can use that to create a frame. And if they start to try to like work your wrists, you can always slide past or move past a lot easier. So I've created this frame here like this. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this to push them away. And once they start pushing away, the good guy will have this still here. So I'm going to get this hand inside. And once this hand inside, I'm going to block the tricep. So I'm going to use this gooseneck shape like this. And I'm going to block the tricep like this. Now when they try to pull the arm off, that's exactly what I want them to do. I want them to lift this arm up. When they lift this arm up, I'm going to shoot this hand over and go for a kimura from the bottom. All right. So it's just like this. So I'm here. I'm pushing. They're going to try. I'm going to hold on to their tricep. They're going to start to pull it back. When they do, that's when I go like this. Now I'm in my kimura lock. Now most people know that your kimura from here is not going to work out well for you. Okay. This doesn't work because it's real easy for them to step over. That's exactly what I want them to do. So my opponent would step over their own hand here. If I was trying to kimura them, it's real easy for them to turn their hip out and step over. All right. So in this scenario, I'm going to be going underneath my opponent. Now I'm not trying to finish this. All right. That's the important part of this kimura situation. I'm not trying to finish this. If I go like I'm trying to finish it, then most of the time they'll turn their hips toward me. So the guy will turn this way and then get this arm inside. So I've still got the kimura, but the arm is inside like a good kimura defense from side. And then what they're going to do is they're going to come around. Now, if I'm trying to finish this, if I'm trying to like go this way with it and they come around me, they're going to set my own arm up for arm attacks, right? And I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to sweep him. So how do I sweep him, you guys? Well, I'm attacking this kimura. Maybe I could not finish it, but get them to roll over. If I'm fast enough, I can get them to roll over. They'll flip over, right? But if they start to come up and pop up, then they can actually come over their arm and push down, and they're inside. So we don't want them. We don't want this to be our defeat, but we want to utilize it as a tool. So we're not utilizing it as a submission necessarily. We're utilizing it as a I'm going to. If you don't do something, I'm going to submit you. So they step over. Now, when they step over, you're actually not pushing this way. You're pushing down into your opponent. So you're actually going with them like this. All right. So what's going to happen is they're going to come up around the top of you like this. Now, see, when I have that kimura in the arm of your opponent, if I got it loose, it's going to stay out here. But if I'm pushing on it, it's going to come inside. So what's happening is it's a table, and I'm actually taking out this third leg. So I'm pushing in on this kimura like so. And then as I'm pushing in, they're coming around. They're going to feel the off balanceness. And when they do, that's when you swing underneath. And when you swing underneath, timber, they fall right over. And then once they're over, you can come up to your own kimura. And now you're on the outside of your own kimura. So you can finish that way. So I'll show you again how it ends. So you're here, and you can actually use this position to lift them up into a kimura position. And, you know, you can go to other things from here. You can finish the kimura. You can do variations of it, whatnot. But this is a better position than you were in. Okay? So I'm going to talk you through it one more time, and then I'm going to show it to you one more time, and then we're going to move on to the next bit. Okay? Okay. So one more time here. Bob is pressuring me real hard, like this. Okay? He's got his arm underneath because he wants to control this. Don't go here. Go here or here. I always prefer here. Again, the reason being, never mind. So I'm gonna go bump, get that arm inside. All right, once the arm's inside, I'm going to bridge a little bit more, get this arm inside, grab the shoulder fabric. Once I've grabbed the shoulder fabric, then I'm gonna use this to create just a little bit more space. And then get this hand inside, grab the tricep, got the gi, got the back of the arm. Now they're gonna come up because they don't want me to hold their arm like this, because I'm from here, I can just sort of shimmy out of this. I've got good control here and I can shimmy out of this. So they don't want this control, so they're gonna lift this arm up. When they do, his shoulder comes over, grabs for the kimura. You're gonna roll them for the kimura. When they come up to their tripod position, they're gonna step over onto their arm. You're going to push into them. When you push into them, instead of trying to pull their arm out, what happens is they're going to come around you. Now, if they don't come around you, remember, you can always come out from underneath. All right, if you've got this arm here, you don't have to wait for them to come around you. You can just use that kimura. So you're here and you're pushing and they're here. Now you can just keep pushing, and you'll end up here. And then once you're here underneath, then you just keep pushing. So I'm pushing, I'm turning, I'm pushing and turning. Boom, they fall over. Now I'm here. And I come up to my kimura and I attempt to finish it, or I can let it go and go for something else. Maybe if I want to go for my key lock, I can go for that instead. So I have options from there. Okay. So that is your fire basic elemental attack. Or one of the two. So now we're going to do one from Earth for people who are more into staying connected and being grounded with your opponent. And remember, the reason why that one can be kind of tricky is because if you don't do it right, you could end up in an arm bar or some other submission because of the ability to spin out of it. Because once you get yourself locked in there, you're attached. So if you don't do the right move, they can take advantage of that. Okay? All right. So the next one we're going to do is an Earth Elemental Basic. So that was a sweep. This is a takedown of sorts. Okay? So the way it works is you want to get an underhook. So everything else is the same. They're in here tight. Worst case scenario, you're blocking them from mounting you. You want to get this arm underneath and inside, so you don't go this way to try to get around the head. You're going to go underneath and around the head. And same thing. So I'm gonna bump over a little bit to get this arm down inside. Once it's inside, create my frame. Now, again, when you create your frame, don't put your hand on the hip like this. This is a wrist lock waiting to happen. You use the blade of your forearm to create an S, like an S shape, just like we always do. Okay, and maybe if you want to try something with the fabric, you can hold that fabric as well. But really, just the frame is all you need. So frame, arm, frame. So now I got the frame. All right, I'm gonna try to get my hand inside. He's not letting me because he's pushing his head down real good. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go boom. And once I create just a little bit of space, I'm gonna get this arm inside to the shoulder. All right, to the shoulder. So we're at the shoulder now. Okay, and he comes back down in, and I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna shimmy him down. I'm gonna get this hand inside, tricep wise. He's gonna start to fight. And then instead of going for the kimura on this, I'm going to take this hand, I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to swim it underneath. So I'm going to go, so this elbow stays in the same spot, but I'm going to swim this forearm down. So it's a swivelly swim type move. So it goes like this. Now when I come underneath, I'm going to come underneath his body with this hand. All right? I'm going to come underneath this body with this hand like this. And once I get down here, I'm going to turn onto my side. All right? I'm going to turn onto my side, and I'm going to reach for his near leg. Okay? I'll switch sides so you can see this a little better. So I'm going for his near leg here. All right, so I'm blocking, I'm going for his near leg. Now once I've grabbed his near leg, I'm actually wanting to get real low with it. I want to get all the way down to his shin. Because if he feels this coming, most opponents will straighten this leg back and then it won't really work. But when you come down, you can grab this shin and pull it toward you like this. So you're windshield wipering that shin toward you. Then it should be pretty easy just to drive into your opponent and come up. And that's what you call a low single. So there's a few things we can do from there. There's a few options to use that low single from. Not just that, but like if you're in turtle, you could also do a low single, depending on the scenario. That's why most of the reason why your opponent doesn't want you to get their legs, so they'll sprawl out when you go for their legs. So you have to wait for them to move, and when they move, that's when you do it. That's one of the few ways that you can take somebody down from turtle. But there's some really fun ones when we get there. Okay. One more time, and I'll do it from your side so you can see the normal orthodox, but from the back side, so you can see how I move. All right. So your opponent has you tight. Or just assume he's in tight here. And remember, you can't see this, but I'm going around the arm, and I can't get this in, so I'm going to bump and get the arm in. Now the arm's in. I'm going to bridge again, just so I can get this arm inside. Remember, I don't want to go out here like this, and we'll talk about why in just a minute, but I want to go inside, underneath. Okay? So I'm here, boom, bridge. I'm going to bridge, swim the arm inside, grab the shoulder. Shoulder is grabbed. Now, I'm going to try to come in and grip that tricep. When I do this, most of the time I can push, and once I push, then I've created enough space to get this arm inside, and I can go down to the leg for that low single. So I'm going to go down here like this. Not going to try to do this. I'm going to try to go like this. So I'm grabbing this leg, and I'm pulling it toward me. And once I pull it toward me, I can turn up like this, and that will collapse them on that side. And you can come up and come into your own attempt to pass. But now you're on top. You weren't on top before. So even if you don't necessarily get into the best position, you're in a much better position than you were before. Okay? So I'll kind of try to go at semi-full speed for you guys so you can see what it looks like from start to finish. Okay? All right. All right. So we're here. And there you go. That's going to be your low single, which is connection. So it's all about earth movements, in my opinion. So it's earth transition. It is a sweep. It's more of a takedown than a sweep. But because you're transitioning and you're escaping, it's a good process. Okay? All right. So let's talk. So now we've done our two sweeps. Now let's talk about our submission of the day. Position of the day is going to be the key lock. All right, there are lots of ways to set up the key lock. One of my favorites is the side control key lock. And it's got the head trapped like this, all right? Now, like I said, if people make the mistake of coming over the top, so instead of trying to come low and keep it low like this, when you're coming in, they try to come over the top, then it's real easy to snag that arm mid, push it over. And so to do the key lock, you need the top hand on the wrist, the bottom hand underneath the arm, and grabbing the wrist like so. So it's a figure four. It's kind of like, some people call it, sometimes they call it a reverse kimura. There's lots of names for all these moves in Jiu-Jitsu. But I just like to keep it separate as an Americana because it was more of a wrestling move, more of a catch wrestling move, so it's an American move. But once you're here, you can get this elbow up against the head like so, and then you're gonna pull this arm down like this, and you're gonna paint the mat. You're not trying to just lift this up, because there's a lot of guys who have real flexible shoulders. If you just try to lift it up, and part of it's because the way the shoulder is designed, it has multiple ranges of motion. So if the hand just stays in one spot and you try to lift up the elbow, you're just rotating the shoulder, and you're actually changing the angle of the shoulder, so it's not putting as much pressure on it if you also move the hand down. So as you do this, if you push the hand down like this, and we call this painting the mat because the hand swipes across the mat, and lift the elbow up, that should finish your opponent, okay? And sometimes you can get this. There's sneaky Americanas that I like. So it works especially good in no gi, but sometimes in gi, people get too confident with their frames. So you'll get a guy in here framing you like this, and he starts pushing, but he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have your lapel. He doesn't have your shoulder. He's got it too high. He's trying to push on your shoulder. So this hand sneaks inside like this to grab. This hand's already underneath. And then all I have to do is lay down on it. Boom. There's your Americana. Super easy. That's one way to do the Americana. There's another way that's also super sneaky. That's where you put your hand like this on your face. So they're here, and instead of grabbing the head, you go here on their face, on your face, and when they start to pass, see what happens? When they start to pass here, and you're defending this pass with his hand, or this swim move with his hand, so as they start to pass here, you switch right back to your Americana. So there's a few ways to set this up that are actually pretty tricky. And they can be super useful to remember, which is part of the reason why, if you're doing side control correctly, things you should be doing, if you're in a bad way, remember this is all bad way side control positions. You got this arm hooked, right? And if my arm's over here, guess what? It's not over here pressing on your face, so you should be able to move, right? If my arm's over here, like doing something like this, waiting for you to pass so I can sneakily grab your arm. Notice that if your arm gets on this side, it's real easy for me to go like that, right? Even if you were here, it's real easy for me to go like this. So if my arm's here, you were here, and you start to pass the arm over, and you get to here, guess what? Still there for me to Americana. So there's the Americana is a real versatile submission. And when you get good at it, it can be, the thing that you beat everybody with. Like my game generally is start on the bottom, sweep, pass the guard and side control, finish with Americana or kimura. But I also like the paper cutter choke. From Tuesday. where you grab it and you come around, and pretty easy, good for a big guy like myself to be able to put a lot of pressure down on somebody and choke somebody that way. So, but in any case, like I said, the Americana is very versatile, but it's actually not the most difficult submission to escape. There are much more difficult submissions to escape. It's a little flimsy. Okay, it's a little flimsy in terms of escape, and I'll tell you why. Okay, there are the concepts that you're trying to figure out are either you need to get your arm up higher, which can help, or you need to get your arm more inside and up. Okay, so I'll tell you what my go-to is for defending the Americana, because it's not too difficult to visualize. And since I don't have anybody here, I'll just show you what it looks like without a partner. All right. So if someone were to have me in an Americana, so like I was dumb, or I didn't know there was a trick to the setup, or there's a few things that could happen, and I apologize for saying dumb. I don't mean dumb. I just mean like you didn't know. Let's just say that you didn't know how this needed to be. It wasn't, you didn't practice it as well as you should have, but you get here. Okay, so we're here, right? Your opponent has his head over and he's just about to lock all this in, right? Well, you can't go this way with it because he's got the arm over and he's trapped your arm. He's using your head. So if you try to extend, his arm comes and your head goes with it. So there's no point there, right? When there's just one hand in, there's a good chance that you can beat this by raising your arm, okay? Good chance you can beat this by raising your arm. So if they put your arm down, any reason, like let's say they were just doing a real, like, I know how to do an Americana, but I don't know how to set it up very well, so I'm gonna do it this way, kind of Americana. And they just like 2-on-1 this hand and pushed it down. And then once it was down, then they tried to come underneath, okay? So what you can do is a couple things. You can actually try to like use this position to shut out their hand by pushing down on the mat. That's an easy one, but it's not always the most effective. And while they're doing this, like I said, you can try to straighten the arm up and out. And once it's up here, then it's going to be real hard to finish. All right, because from here I can like turn onto my side, or if I can't turn onto my side, this is the other thing that helps. This hand. All right, if this hand is free, because if I did everything right, if I framed correctly and I protected this hand, or if I'm not underneath, if I'm not trying to do something fancy out here and I don't have this, there's tricky things that we can do to trap this, and I'll show you those next week, because I'll do top stuff. But if this hand is free, it's real easy to bring this hand over and grab this hand. You don't even have to grab it that good. You don't have to do a gable grip. You can do an S grip. You can grab it like this kind of gable grip, because even if it's here, you can grab an S grip. And so what I like to do from here, now it's 2-on-1. So if I can get this hand over here like this, then I can straighten this arm up, turn this elbow in, and get it back down. Now I can come back in here, and I'm actually framing now. See how I've got my frames? So your first instinct on the Americana should be your positioning. All right, that's your level 1 defense. Your level 1 defense is your positioning. So if I'm here, can't Americana me. If they use the, if they look like they're gonna do the sit and wait trick, wait for me to try to get underneath, they might grab my hand, and if they do, I might, have trouble. So if before everything happens, to defend, you need to make sure you do everything correctly. Follow the steps that we practiced so far. Grab the arm, bump, make space, frame here, bump, go underneath the chin. All right. Remember, if they're using both hands on that side, that's fine, because it's super easy for me to then come up underneath and do other things. There's lots of other things I can do by coming up. There's that ghost sweep that you can do. There is from there, I'm trying to think. You can do the extend down one. That one's also one you can do. There are a few you can do, and you can just make your presence known by keeping this here and then like, jamming, foothold. There's actually a toe hold like underneath that you could play around with. There's a few things you can do, but until you get good at those, just watch out for that. So we're there now. Step number 2, you get your arm down. All right, and this hand is free. Maybe even it's still up here real high. You reach over and grab it, both fingers. Okay, you got these fingers here like this. 2 on 2 is what it is. So now I can pull this up, extend it up, elbow comes in, comes back down. Now I can reframe, and I don't need to worry about that Americana anymore. Okay. Now, if they've got both hands in and you're here and this arm's in, like trapped or whatever, pretty sure that was a good setup. None of that should have happened. All right. If you got to that point, I'm sorry. You learn, you live and learn. Don't do that again. That's where you're at with that. So this hand is real important for help. Unless you can bridge real hard. Like if you got this trapped here and you have good flexibility to keep this shoulder down and come out and bridge real hard to try to get this arm or even come underneath. That's another thing. If you can create space to come underneath and regrip this arm, that's another thing you can do. Or even like maybe push the shoulder down. These are just, like I said, these are all the things that you should be kind of putting together and thinking about whenever you're getting attacked with the Americana. Okay. All right. So that's my defense for the Americana. That's what I would suggest as a defense. Now, one last thing I want to talk about was the first sweep we did. The thing about the kimura sweep from side control is that you can set it up from half guard first. Okay. So if I have my opponent here, I'll just pull Bob up here for a second and give it to you again. So if I have Bob here and I haven't got him in half guard, right? And I'm one of those players that likes to kimura people from half guard. So I've created my frame, I'm holding him out here and everything, and then I let this arm slip past. So I'm not doing tricep because I'm not close enough. Maybe I'm doing like outside sleeve like this. Okay. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let him slip past my frame over in kimura. All right. Now, if I am here and I am able to finish that kimura, right? As I roll this way, I keep this hooked and I roll to my back and then I try to extend down and back. That's what I'm trying to do, right? But what can happen is as you go for that, they tuck this real fast because that's what we do. You tuck this hand inside here. Sorry, Bob's arms are so short. So just imagine his arms tucked in there. So if I leave this here, there are things that he can do to me. This is kind of a dangerous position defensively. And I would go over that, or I would go over that in an earlier module. But what you're going to do is you're actually going to get them to side control, because if you don't, then that's going to be a problem. So you're going to let this outside leg unhook. And when you let it unhook, most people will pass. Now, let's say they don't. Let's say they're like, oh, I know what to do from here. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your outside leg, give a little hook on their leg like this. You're going to lift it up and out. Now, once it's up and out and they're here, then we just follow the rest of the path. Okay? So this is if, you go for the kimura, you fail. Now you've got the kimura sweep you can do. All right? So that's all I wanted to say about that, and I should have mentioned it earlier. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day.